Hello everybody, welcome back to English Building Blocks. Today we're going to discuss the Saxon genitive and how to use it correctly. We'll also talk about when not to use it, okay? Now, remember, if you like these videos, please subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment down below, or give a simple thumbs up, okay? And now, without further ado, the Saxon genitive. Now, what is a Saxon genitive? Well, basically, the Saxon genitive is a way of shortening an expression. For example, the car of David. We can shorten this expression by saying David's car. Now, the expression David's is the Saxon genitive. David apostrophe S. Okay? David's car. Now, when do we use this Saxon genitive? Well, basically we express a possession using the Saxon genitive. Okay? So whose car is this? It's David's car. Okay? Other examples. Julia's bag. Whose bag is this? It's Julia's bag, okay? Or the teacher's books. Whose books are these? They're the teacher's books, okay? So every time we use the Saxon genitive, David's car, Julia's bag, or the teacher's books, okay? Now, the word order here is very important. We begin with first the possessor, followed by the apostrophe S, and then the possession. For example, David's car. So David is the possessor, followed by that apostrophe S, and then the possession car. Same goes with Julia's bag. Julia is the possessor, followed by an apostrophe S, and then the possession, bag, okay? Or the teacher's books. The teacher is the possessor, followed by the apostrophe S, and then the possession, books, okay? Now, there is one thing you have to be careful with, and that is the use or not of the definite article, the. Now, when the expression of the possessor does not contain the, then you do not use the definite article the in the Saxon genitive. For example, David's car or Julia's bag are all expressions without the definite article the, because the possessors David and Julia do not contain that definite article the. On the other hand, when the possessor does use the definite article the, for example, the teacher, then in the Saxon genitive, you have to use that definite article the teacher's books. Okay? Now, it's possible to use this Saxon genitive without a following noun, and this happens in two specific cases. So firstly, this happens when we want to avoid repetition. We do not want to repeat the same word again. Okay, for example, whose phone is this? And you answer, it's Johnny's. Johnny's what? Johnny's phone, obviously, because in the question we have already referred to the word noun, and when using the Saxon genitive, we don't repeat that same noun, okay? Whose phone is this? It's Johnny's, okay? And secondly, we also use the Saxon genitive without a following noun when referring to the place where somebody lives or works. For example, I'm sleeping at Jimmy's. Jimmy's what? Jimmy's house, obviously, there is no need to add the noun house. You can, but you don't have to. So you can say, I'm sleeping at Jimmy's, or I'm sleeping at Jimmy's house. Both are perfectly okay. Second example, I'm going to the butcher's to buy some meat. So again, it's not necessary to say the butcher's shop. It is obvious that we're going to the shop to buy some meat, so we use the Saxon genitive without a following noun. I'm going to the butcher's to buy some meat. Okay? Good. Now, the Saxon genitive has a second use as well. We can use this Saxon genitive with time adverbs or expressions of time. Now, the word order is very similar to when we express possession. So we begin here with the adverb of time, followed by the apostrophe s, and then referring to the noun. Okay, for example, yesterday's exam. So you see, we begin with the adverb of time yesterday, followed by the apostrophe s, and we finish with the noun exam. Okay, another example, last week's class. So again, we begin with the adverb of time last week, followed by that apostrophe s, and finishing with the noun. Okay, last week's class. So we can use this Saxon genitive to express possession, or we can also use it with adverbs of time. However, we cannot use it with things. Now, things obviously cannot possess anything, right? People do, or even animals do, right? It's not an adverb of time, so we cannot apply the Saxon genitive to a thing, an object. For example, the door of the house, right? We cannot say the house's door. That is incorrect. We need to maintain the expression as is, the door of the house. Okay. Another example, the lid of the pen. Again, we cannot say the pen's lid. We need to maintain the expression the lid of the pen. Okay, so remember, do not use the Saxon genitive with things or objects. Okay. Now, let's have a look at regular plural nouns and names ending in s. Firstly, the regular plural nouns. So, as you know, a regular plural noun ends in the letter s. So what do we do when applying the Saxon genitive to that plural noun? Well, basically what we do is we add just an apostrophe after the s. For example, this is my friend's TV. So my friends in the plural form ending in s is followed by the apostrophe, and only the apostrophe. So we don't use an apostrophe s, we only use an apostrophe. This is my friend's TV. Okay. Now, when a name ends in an s, for example, Charles or James, then you can actually choose to use only the apostrophe or the apostrophe s. For example, these are James' shoes, or these are James's shoes. Both options with names are correct. Okay? So remember, with a regular plural noun, you just use an apostrophe, and when it's a name, then basically you can choose, okay, an apostrophe or an apostrophe S. Thus far, the use of the Saxon genitive has been relatively easy, right? But there is one major complication, however, and that's when we have multiple possessors. So let's have a look. In the first case, there are two possessors of one possession. Okay, for example, Jack and Jane together have one garden. In such case, we apply the Saxon genitive only once at the end of the expression of the possessors. For example, Jack and Jane's garden. Okay, so you see, we only use the Saxon genitive once, Jack and Jane's garden. Furthermore, you also notice that the possession garden is in singular. Okay. Now, second case. What do we do when we have multiple owners of different possessions? For example, Jack has one garden and Jane has another garden. Okay. Then in such case, we apply the Saxon genitive to each possessor. For example, Jack's and Jane's gardens. Okay, so you see we use the Saxon genitive with each possessor, Jack's and Jane's gardens. Furthermore, you also see that the possession gardens is in the plural form. Okay, good. Now, to sum up, we use the Saxon genitive in order to shorten an expression. For example, David's car. Instead of the car of David, we can say David's car using that Saxon genitive. Okay. Now, the main use of this Saxon genitive is to express possession. For example, Julia's bag. Whose bag is this? It's Julia's bag. Okay. Now, these Saxon genitive forms can be used without a following noun, and we do so A, to avoid repetition, and B, when we refer to the place where somebody lives or works. Okay. Now, there is a second use to this Saxon genitive, and that is with adverbs of time. For example, yesterday's exam. So we use this Saxon genitive with the adverb of time yesterday in this case. Okay. And also remember, do not use the Saxon genitive with things or objects. For example, the door of the house is the door of the house. You cannot say the house's door. That is an incorrect expression. Okay? Now, thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something. And if you have, subscribe. Okay? Now, see you next time. Bye-bye.